So, 2 coins. 2 coins represent so much in today's gospel reading. Mark chapter 12 has us already in Jerusalem for Holy Week. Jesus has already made his triumphant entry into the city. He's already flipped the tables of the money changers. The plot to kill him is well underway. But Jesus continues to preach and to teach in those last days. There's much that he wants to share and emphasize with his disciples. And then right in the middle of this last public, the scene of Jesus' last public ministry, while Jesus is teaching about the hypocrisy of this unsympathetic religious elite, he stops and he draws the disciples' attention to a widow lady who is putting her offering into the collection plate. Now, the offering consists of 2 small coins. And Jesus points out that those coins represent more of the woman's total income than all the other large offerings that were given by those who are more better off financially. There is such a startling contrast between the haves and the have-nots in this scene that Jesus needs the disciples to take note. Jesus says that the Pharisees, they have contributed out of their abundance, but that particular woman had contributed out of her poverty, putting in everything that she has to live on. Now, this is often where in sermons we stop to say that Jesus praises this poor woman's generosity. However, and we've just had Wanda read it for us, if we look closely at that reading, Jesus doesn't praise the woman's generosity as such, but instead points out the situation as a matter of fact. And given everything that Jesus had been talking about around this particular little story, we do a disservice to the story by simply talking about the woman's generosity. Because Jesus has just spent the last while talking about corruption and hypocrisy and how the ideals of God's kingdom had been perverted into a system that no longer serves the purpose for which it was created. And so, if we notice the widow, then we need to understand why it is that she was so vulnerable and poor. I think that by Jesus pointing her out, that was a continuation of his ongoing indictment of the system that kept her poor. So this poor gal, this widow, if she had no sons or her sons were too young to take the responsibility for her, then she was completely at the mercy of society. She would not own any property, she would not own any housing. Anything that she had came at the mercy of the society, which is why she only had those 2 small coins which were then given to the temple. Now, I follow a number of folks online sometimes, and there's this lawyer from New York named Bryan Stevenson. And Bryan Stevenson, he founded an organization that is called can I have some of your juice? The Equal Justice Initiative, which is an anti-poverty and an anti-discrimination organization. I'm desperate when I drink that. So Stevenson is often quoted for saying, "There is no wholeness outside of our reciprocal humanity. By simply punishing the broken, walking away from them or hiding them from sight only ensures that they remain broken. And we do too. There is no wholeness outside of our reciprocal humanity." Or another way of saying that is, the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. And Jesus, in his last days, preached justice and wholeness. And our reflections on the story this morning need to stay in that wider context of that teaching. Everyone who was on that busy street that morning in Jerusalem, they ignored the widow. She's almost invisible, right? Nobody saw her for who she was. Nobody recognized that she was an individual. And yet there she was, contributing what she had to what I'm sure she believed was the greater good. She was giving to God and the temple. But here's the thing. She may have been invisible to everyone around her, but she was not invisible to Jesus. And Jesus made sure that she was not invisible to his disciples either. I believe that Jesus not just wanted the disciples to see her as a person, but also to be outraged by a system that had disdain for the poor or the near destitute in order to perpetuate the wealth of the elite, which is what he says in the few verses right before he points her out. So that's kind of the wider context. Let's look a little more at the gift itself. 2 coins. All she had. Jesus knows a little bit of something about the giving of all he had. A little something about the giving everything to people who did not understand the value of his gift. We are taught to say thank you for gifts. We start when they're little and give the little guy something and we say, and what do you say? We teach that, to say thank you. And we're taught to say a big thank you for big gifts. And now I don't want to either discourage the giving of big gifts or seem ungrateful to folks who are able to give above and beyond. That is a gift they give and we are blessed by it. But the truth is that in every community, and churches are no different, it is the multiplicity of people who are giving their 2 coins worth that they can give consistently week after week after week after week after week. That is the backbone of a healthy community. The multitude of people giving what they can is no small gift. Every gift is important. And we've been celebrating 200 years here at our church, and we've been celebrating the large gifts and the small gifts. We've been blessed to have endowments that were earmarked for particular ministry endeavors. And there are so many things we know that we wouldn't be able to do without those endowment funds. But it's also the givings in our offering plates week after week after week that keep our power turned on. They keep our water bills paid. They keep the parking lot plowed, in the winter, and so on and so on and so forth. We are a community of folks that contribute as a community for the maintenance and building up of the community. And every gift is important. So let's take that up a notch. Tomorrow is Remembrance Day. And so much of what we have, of what we enjoy today, is owed to those who gave of themselves. Veterans who gave of their time and their efforts, and some even with their lives. There were no small gifts. Some gave through engineering or aeronautic skills, while others gave through trudging through mud and up onto dangerous beaches into the line of fire. There are no small gifts. Those who stayed home gave of their prayers, or the accepting of additional hardships, or sometimes they gave of their sons and their daughters and their husbands and their wives. There were no small gifts. And we know that our veterans are not just from the 2 great wars or just from Korea, because over the years we have sent peacekeepers all over the world. And we have young men and women coming back from places like Afghanistan and other areas that are torn apart by unspeakable violence, and they're coming home damaged in ways that are not always visible to our eyes. They gave what might have seemed unsubstantial to some, but that's not true, because there are no small gifts when you are giving of all that you have. We, as a Christian church, need to notice and to acknowledge the widow's coins. Notice the need for justice regardless of the form that the widow takes in our communities. And on this Remembrance Sunday, we need to strive for justice and peace as our thank yous to those who have given of all they had, but not just as our thank yous, right? We need to strive for peace and justice as our obligation, so that their sacrifices are not in vain. Just as Jesus' sacrifice cannot be in vain. Jesus died so that we might live, and how could we ever then just throw that back in his face as ungrateful Christians by not striving to achieve the justice for all of God's children, all of God's beloved children? We can't. We must offer what we can, the 2 coins of our lives. Because here's the thing, and here's the truth of every community. We together, all our 2 coins together, can make change for the better. And may God use the offerings of our lives. Thanks be to God. Amen.